Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Basically, this meeting, we're not really voting on anything. We're just working on our marketing plan, see where it goes. So, the first thing I'm going to start with is contractual services, which is the billboards. I believe someone has just some spreadsheets for us where we are on billboards. If you don't,
We're not voting on, we won't be voting on anything, we'll just be discussing.
just discussing. And then everything will be voted on in our April meeting.
Okay.
Any changes or anything that we have.
You can talk about the billboard.
Yeah. Okay. What I've got so far for the billboards, let's go over, if we can, the first, the second page in the packet that I passed out. I went ahead and kind of where we're at with the billboards for March, April, May, and June to finish out this fiscal year. The billboards run for the month for 7 billboards. It's $1,820. And then I went ahead and figured also for March, from what we voted on at the last meeting, for the API, the billboard signage, that's the poster changes. Normally, bills are anywhere from at least $60. They can go as high as $125. And it's really dependent upon the design and the elaborate work that's involved. I figured I had rather over than underestimate something. So I figured $125 for the ones that we approved, which we approved 2 for Folk Festival, 2 for Taste of Scotland, and 2 for Airing of the Quilts. So based at $125 each, we're up to $750 for the poster change for March. And then we had agreed to do from a month-to-month contract with Tony Angel Media. So for March, we've got 800 committed, and then if we want to continue that for April, May, and June, I figured $800 a month on that. Mm-hmm. And then for the April Full Trail Days, that is one of the other commitments we still have outstanding. It's for $2,000, and I went ahead and grouped that in the month of March. So the March commitments we've got to date is $5,370. April, May, and June, including the billboards and Tony Angel, you're looking at $2,620. And that'll finish us out for this fiscal year. I'll turn to Tony now about the billboards for the upcoming fiscal year for starting in July.
Okay, that's fine.
Real fast, sorry, do you have any more in this packet?
Since I'd offered to help you all kind of navigate through your marketing meeting, I put together a little spreadsheet for you. If you'll take a quick look at your spreadsheet, I kind of split everything up so you would know where your money is going on the boards, and where in particular you may want to transfer some money or use money in different spots. Your contract with Allison is through the end of December. Okay, so it's up at the end of December, and therefore the reason that those numbers are only in there through the month of December. It's a January to January contract, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
So you have a total of about $10,900 committed to them through December. But after that, you may want to consider just leaving your 2 static boards up and dropping the other 5. These are only ideas. I mean, these are decisions you folks will have to make. But if you're looking at shifting some money and putting money in different spots, this is where you can make some ground up. Does that make sense to you?
It did to me.
Yeah.
It does to me totally.
So, you're looking at saving about $15,600 a year if you drop those 5 boards plus your poster cost of another $1,500 to $2,000. So that would free up about $17,000 of your budget if you drop those 5 boards. On the other hand of that, you would not have those boards to offer the advertising for the community groups. So, you have to weigh out your pros and cons on what you're doing there. And if you look on down your budget too, I added one item that you all don't have at the very bottom. I put a line item of discretionary funds. I think that's very important that you have some money set aside. You remember when the saddlebags guy came in from Charlotte with the advertising opportunity? Well, you had everything committed, and this gives you a pool of money that when those advertising opportunities come in, you can say, oh, okay, well, we have some money set aside, we can do this. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, well, we have this festival coming up, this festival's coming up, you know, we have to pay for the billboards here, here's the website thing, here's all of this going on. You have a pool of money set aside to where you can do some extra stuff. So I think it would be wise if you all, when you're considering your budget, to put some discretionary money in there. So
On the billboards?
Yes.
Where are they?
your billboards.
Pretend I don't know where they're at.
Yeah.
I know where.
We have two static boards. One of those is over near Uncle Bill's Flea Market, over in Jackson County.
Oh, okay.
74?
Yes, headed this way. The other one is south near Eller and Owens, if I'm not mistaken, the static one is. You also, rotating boards. Those 5 rotating boards, there's one on Highlands Road across from Jim Brown Chrysler. And let me know if I'm speaking too fast and I'll slow down. Y'all can get those written down. There's one down at Bates Concrete, and those are the 2 that are in Franklin. There are 2 southbound in Jackson County. One is, if I believe is as you're coming down the mountain. There's one there. I'm trying to think of the exact spot it is. It's near
Right
the
in
hospital.
Savannah. Yeah,
Then the other one is in Savannah, you know, the long stretch where the old Savannah school is. It's in that general area. And then you have,
What was the one before that?
coming down 441, down Silva.
Okay.
You have 2 in Silva.
Okay.
I do
Is that like
have the
Pumpkin Town
invoice for
area,
them
right?
that has the location.
Yes, before you get to
if you wanna
Pumpkin.
make a-
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's before you get to Pumpkin
I was
Town.
asking.
Okay, okay, down at the bottom of the,
Yeah, you know, the long stretch as you're coming out of Dillsboro, and there's the old Savannah school that sits on your right as you're heading into Franklin. There's a board somewhere in that general vicinity there. The other one is on back on 441, I think near the hospital exit or close to it, back that way, coming again, 441 south, 2374 direction, coming into Franklin. Then you have one down about Tiger, Georgia, that's a northbound board. So that's where the 5 rotating boards are. And then the 2 stacks.
And we can actually move those too. if
Well,
there's
you know,
something else that's available.
we moved the one from Highlands Road to 441 south because of better exposure for events. And by the way, we do have posters that are going up soon for April Fool's, not April Fool's, but airing of the quilts. I'm sorry, I'm still in the 80s. Airing of the quilts in the Taste of Scotland, and I'm waiting on the approval for the folk festival to get it up. But it hasn't been approved yet by that particular group. So we'll have some boards.
What I can do, if you guys want, this is a copy of our bill, I made a note, I can email this to everybody, because it lists in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I'd like to have that. That'd be great. And you know, moving forward, how do we avoid the gun show February 23rd and 24th? You know, because I drive by and I see that and it kills me. Because, you know, it's,
yeah, I've seen that, where is that?
how do we
I've seen that.
put ourselves in position to
We
avoid,
have,
avoid
we've
that?
gotten posters on backup to do that. But
Right.
Allison Outdoors sometimes are not getting their boards up and fast. I mean, like any business that you can see.
We were out of backup posters, and we had to order some, and that was that extra bill that came in. And at the last meeting, if you'll recall, we had to leave those up, because if we put the new posters up, you're gonna be wasting money.
Right,
So-
but the step before that, it was on our end or Allison's end? As
It's
far
on
as
Allison's end,
running out of posters?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, Nelson checked the stock, and they only had 1 poster left.
Okay.
And so, you know, your other expense involved in that with Associated Posters, who does the printing, is the fact that you have to have enough blanks or generics to fill when you don't have an event going on, if you have those 5 boards.
Mhm.
So that's 5 posters, you know, at $60 a piece is $300. That'll last you 30 to 60 days, and then a new one has to go up.
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot of expense involved in that. And are they effective? Yes, you know?
I would rather, I mean, this is my opinion, I'm in favor of that expense as opposed to bad content. you know?
Absolutely, sure, sure. But now you have backup posters, and once these new ones get installed, you'll be back on the regular
Right.
rotation
Right.
to get all the old posters covered.
Where we shouldn't have old posters just sitting
You will
there.
not have old posters, right?
And generally, from about this time to
Mhm.
the end of June, we don't have to worry about backup posters because
That's right.
once one event ends, we
Right,
pull that
there's
board
something
with
in
the
line.
next event. Yeah, we got the events lined up.
It'll be like
And then
the
it's up to
Folk
them
Fest.
too, to also make sure that they get the information to make those billboards, because, I mean, it takes a month out for them to get them up. I mean, I know that was a problem that we had before.
Yeah.
Some of these people that ask for billboards, they may not even realize they have to come up with a design and
They have
all
to
that
do it.
stuff.
Well-
Either they can, or someone else has to draw it up, and that's not something you can do in a day, and
Right, and I mean, having this meeting is the right direction, and, you know, the more a publishing calendar comes into view, you know, we know what to expect, so we can, you know, submit all that stuff at once.
Oh, absolutely.
Set go, that's,
Right,
and then it's a less headache for everybody.
that's right. And it
Okay.
falls too within your grant request.
Right.
You know, if
that
they
was
don't
something
ask
we
for
just
them,
added.
you know, we're just not gonna out of the blue put them up. They have to ask, and you all have to approve.
Do
So-
they also request, aside from us asking for a billboard, do they request specifically where they'd like, which billboard they want? Or do they just get whatever's
Some
available?
do,
They can.
Some do.
They
If
can.
it's available.
If it's available.
If it's
That's
available,
right.
they can,
They can.
otherwise.
Right.
okay.
If we've committed to one event, we're not gonna bump them until that event's over.
But if they ask, we do try and see if we can't get them.
Okay.
And I assume Allison provides traffic counts.
They do.
They do?
They do traffic counts once or twice a year.
Okay,
And I can ask Nelson for those numbers.
cool.
I can tell you the busiest
I'm
intersection.
sure that's been implemented already to some extent into our positions now.
The busiest intersection is, or at least was, and it's no surprise, the one out at McDonald's on 441.
Mhm.
That's the busiest intersection. But we'll see with the moving around of some of the big box things, how all that changes. I'm not exactly sure how that'll go into effect, but I'll get the new numbers for you off Nelson, so you can see where the traffic counts are. We ran into a problem, of course, this past year with election cycle, and every time you have an election
Yeah.
cycle, it's hard to get a board.
So we didn't have to
So,
trade out.
You know, you just have to, you know, I thought it was a very good trade to get trade the one from Highlands Road to get the 441, where you have a whole lot more traffic down there. So I thought that was a good move on y'all's part to get that.
And definitely, I mean, I don't know what everyone's opinion, and I would like that on the billboards, because, I mean, I don't know if any of y'all do them with your business, but to me, I mean, it's a way that you can advertise for festivals. I mean, it's
Mhm.
without, and it's a good use of
Oh,
money.
I would definitely be for billboards, for sure.
I would think, because we have received positive comment from some of the groups, that,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
because they have people that have commented that they saw a billboard and came.
Mhm.
You know, so some of the people that we put up signs for have had positive comments towards.
How did we come about having, choosing 7, or not choosing, but having that number of 7 billboards?
How much
Was
is
that
that?
it, or do we just?
Well, we started with 5, and
They
then we
did a
added 2.
contract, they did do a contract with us for a pricing, in
Mhm.
order to get a certain pricing that some of the businesses didn't even get, because we had them. And we did know that we wanted 2 vinyls, that basically was the TDA, that we would keep those up at all times. I think I'm the only
Yeah.
one besides you that was left on the board. But by giving us that many, of course, there's a different person on place now,
Mhm.
they gave us a discount.
Yeah, they started with 5, and then we ran into having too many events going on in
And
the
need
same
extra.
time span, like you've got,
Yeah.
basically May, June, and July, boom, boom, boom. So we needed to get the billboards, we couldn't wait until
One
the
got
events
done before
finish.
you
one
go out to
finished to
one.
put the next one up, because then it was only 30 days at that site.
Okay.
So we expanded it to 5, so that we had room that we could put 2 here, 2 here, for a couple months ahead of the
Mhm.
event. And that's how that worked out, so. And we might even consider, depending on how it looks on the funding, if we get a deal, it may even be a good idea to get a sixth one, you know, that we would loan out.
Mhm.
And the gun shows, of course, those are, we just authorize because we don't have anything going. He pays for that. We don't.
Right.
Yeah, that's right, they pay for their own
We
posters.
just authorize the use of the board.
Yeah, y'all didn't pay for the posters for that, he pays for his own. They just use the space.
And
Because
two,
we
the
don't
options,
have
get rid
anything
of the
going
vinyl.
on. You know, we don't have anything going on.
Yeah, I mean, you could drop the, I mean,
We could drop the
again,
vinyls 'cause they're
I
more
figured my
expensive.
job was to kind of nitpick what you're doing and let you kind of decide if you want to free some money up or let it stay where it is. And, you know, if you need to free some money up, if you're still gonna have a budget of $100,000, if you need to free some money up, you know, by, you know, taking the two statics away, well, there's, let me put my glasses back down, I'm sorry, you know, about $6,240 that you would save. So, but again, you do
What's on the attic ones?
waterfalls.
And then wording
It's
of
like
Franklin.
Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin and the website.
Do we have
Okay.
a landing page?
Pardon me, I'm sorry?
A landing page, website to kind of track, see if you get anything off of that?
For the
Have
billboards,
we tried any of that, or?
I didn't put in a unique identifier on it
Right.
because when people are traveling, they're not gonna remember that slash.
Right.
They're barely gonna remember the website.
Right.
I mean, I know how I am. If I'm traveling, I'll see something and go, oh, Charleston, that's cool. I won't remember the website, but I'll remember
Right.
if the billboard caught my attention.
Right.
So you're gonna be lucky if, now, print, it's a different story.
Yeah,
They can
I
always
agree.
go back and see the extension on the
I was
end
just
of it.
curious if we ever tried any of
Yeah, we haven't done that on the boards. Of course, your vinyls.
that. That's me going down the road, trying to punch it in and driving.
Stay away from you.
That's what Siri's for.
Your vinyl boards last about 3 years, and we just had those installed last year. So they're up, as long as y'all have those boards,
Wow.
you won't have to replace that for another
That
2
was
years.
the
years.
difference. That was the
Yeah,
difference.
vinyl lasts a whole lot longer, but the posters are much higher. They're about 400 a piece.
Yeah, they have a pretty price
Vinyls
tag.
are about $400 a piece, but they last 3
Yeah.
years.
Well, you look
Whereas
at the
every
weather
1
side,
to 2
a
months,
poster
you'd have
can
to
last
spend
a month.
60 for a new paper to go.
If that.
So it's much more economical to do a vinyl for a long period of time.
Now, if something happens, I think you've told me before, Tony, if something happens to a poster like the quilt trails, would then, before the 30 days, they'll replace
That's
that?
right.
No extra, that's what I thought you told me.
But past a certain date, they won't guarantee them, and then you have to buy another poster to put up.
That's what I thought.
You know, we ran into problems with the motorcycle event last year, and it was simply due to 2 factors. The location of that board got a lot of evening sun, and that evening sun is hot, and the poster design was
Black, yeah, that's the other
And the
one.
combination of heat and black just sucks it in, and it kept on just exploding, that poster. And they would come and repair it. And in 2 days, it'd be down again. They would come back and repair it, 3 days, it'd be down again. So, you know, it's something we need to consider when you all are authorizing boards. We'll try to stay away from black
Yeah.
because of the heat, especially in the summer months. The heat really draws, and it really lessens the life of the poster.
That
you
was
got.
on the Highlands Road? Yeah. We don't have that one anymore.
No, sir. And the one that's there now is white. So it's got a white background, so it'll stay fine. But it's like a black car.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's gonna naturally get much hotter than a white car is going to, or a lighter colored car.
Yeah, so if that's something we could look at, you know, either eliminating the 2 vinyls or taking one of the 2 vinyls and making 6 rotating posters.
Because right now, we, on average, spend per month for the 7 altogether. The 7 altogether is 1,820. And I calculated that if you did, I know our contract runs out in December, but if you wanted to run that on a year, for a fiscal year budget, you're committing, now this is just for the billboards, not counting the posters, you're committing $21,840.
So a little bit over a fifth of your budget would be committed to boards. So, you know.
But
again,
how many, and two, not to go against the billboards, I mean, imagine someone trying to go get a billboard for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can't commit to that. I mean,
Right.
or you'd have to keep it forever
Right.
and pay a fortune, so we're actually, it's a benefit as far as
Oh, sure.
tourism for any festival or anything that's coming.
And my
to
input is
approach
not,
us.
is neither
No, I'm
pro
just
nor
saying.
con. It's just throwing some things out there to let y'all think about, you know, where you want to stick your money, so.
Well, I used to be not really for billboards when, because we did them because we had to, because of franchise, and you were supposed to do so many. But since we put Cat Creeks up there, that's where all my business comes from. To the website. I mean, they seen the billboard. They'll email me. And I was shocked because I didn't realize, I mean, we don't track ours, but I got most of the comments from the billboard. So just, and that was on 441 coming from Jonesboro. So then I seen that it was working and I thought, wow. And then I've heard people make comments about the festivals and stuff, so.
That close in, huh? Is that the
Yeah.
only one you've got, that's the
It's
only one
right
you
there,
guys have?
because we don't have
Yeah, they got
anything that
one
really
south.
advertise.
You got one south and one north.
And most of them has been seen coming into Franklin.
Where is it? I've seen it, I know I've seen it.
There's one on both the 41s, north and south.
You may want to consider asking Allison if they have anything farther out.
But it's helped, I mean, people coming into town going, oh, I need a place to stay, like random people, just,
Even over toward Asheville, that direction on 40 or coming off of 40 there. Noticed the last time I was over that direction, there were some empty boards over there. And I know they're at good prices still.
Oh, I'm sure.
People are trying, I mean, it's like everything else. People should never do it, but they cut advertising first. And there for a while, even in Atlanta, you could get, I mean, a fifth of what you would normally pay for a board in Atlanta. It's what you were paying, a fifth or less. It was pretty amazing. But an Atlanta board is several thousand a month versus,
Mhm.
you know, but
What
still.
about the Gainesville area? Have we ever done anything down there, guys?
I
We
believe
did
that
for the
was with the,
theater.
Yeah, we did
Theater.
for the theater
Yeah.
that one year.
when I first opened.
But that was like,
it's down in Habersham, wasn't it?
yeah, I
That
want
was
to
a
say
great
that was
billboard.
like 13,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say 11 or
13?
something thousand.
13 for that board, yeah, 13,000 for that.
For the year?
And they did the posters, I mean, Premier did,
Yeah.
and they put all the posters up, we just purchased the
You just
contract.
did the contract.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it gets, depending on your population area and the number of, the amount of traffic and that impacts the price.
Sure.
And
That
driving,
makes
and you're
sense.
right, that is a good billboard, because when you're driving from home
Yeah,
and then
smacks
it's
you
dark,
in
you
the
don't
face.
see anything, and there's a light right there,
Yeah,
and
that's
you
right.
see it, so.
It's right there at the theater, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Habersham, isn't it
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The theater is.
Right there on the right.
I would almost be in favor for something more in that direction and trim some of the, some of the local stuff. I think there's other ways to promote some of the local festivals, some of the free ways to do that. Just by several outlets, social media, flyers, cross promotions with other entities.
Yeah, that's what we're finding out though, is that the local festivals aren't as local. They're drawing people. I mean, we don't get 3,000 people from town at Pumpkin Fest.
Well, I mean, I understand
We're
that.
drawing the
It's a
huge
mix.
crowd from, and that's where our Atlanta TV ads have impacted. Because the TV ads in Atlanta, we have those little snippets on there showing the festivals. And that draws a substantial crowd for us.
And let me interject something there after Mike with that too. When you're considering your thing, I realized that the Comcast promotion that you did, it was a good chunk of your budget. But you could be more date specific. You
I
could
agree with
do, for instance, the month of July, and then you could go back and do September and October. You could skip some months through there. August is kind of, it's back to school month. There aren't a lot of festivals and things around that we can promote down there. So you might do a little bit more precise or targeted with the months that if you decide to go that route again, that, would trim, again, some money off of that. You could, let's see, for like airing of the quilts and Taste of Scotland if that continues next year, which I hope it does. It's June, May and June, so you could literally start in April and do you could do them like 2 week bursts of ads. You could run for 2 weeks in April, run for a couple of weeks in May. You could also run for a couple of weeks in June. Instead of doing the whole month, just run them 2 weeks at a time. And therefore it's possible that you could take that down to, half of what you spent before, and still have that presence in Atlanta, because if those web numbers I gave you all a while back, if you look at those, there's a direct correlation on web traffic when those spots aired in Atlanta compared to the normal traffic that you get. They just go straight up when it's aired down there. So,
I think we maybe need to fine tune that a little bit, though, like you say, and do
Sure.
bursts.
there are ways to free up some more money for you to spend without damaging what you have already, got started down there. The TDA was kind of a groundbreaker as far as TV goes, because no one had really done a long-term advertising campaign in a large market like Atlanta. And the longer that, it's very successful. So, something you may even want to look at some point is, we talked about this before too, is Charlotte. You may want to try a cable thing in Charlotte at some point. We're seeing more Charlotte traffic coming now. So,
I had one more question about billboards. Does the TDC have billboards?
No,
Okay.
no, not-
We're the only
we're not
entity.
duplicating, yeah.
Okay.
So anyone advertising, let's say they come before us, it can be not necessarily just a town event, it could be county event.
Well, most of the TDC is basically the town of Franklin and Nantahala. The Highlands events are handled by the Highlands TDC. They have their own TDC.
Mhm.
So there's the Nantahala and Franklin TDCs are in one group. And that handles the Franklin area, basically.
The TDA started when they started collecting that extra 3% occupancy tax, which is all the people within the city limits.
Mhm.
Those are the people that started, that's where these funds come from for us, not the TDC or Nantahala.
TDC covers everybody in the county. And there's more short-term rentals with cabins and that kind of thing outside.
Right.
And the Nantahala area, because of their camping and short-term rentals, they get probably about $20,000 a year out of that in funding, maybe a little more. And then the other hotels in the Franklin area, that's the TDC about, I'm trying to remember the numbers now.
about 140, isn't it?
About 140.
145,
Yeah, closer to 150 maybe a year. And so between the two, they've got about 170,000.
But as far as advertising with billboards, they don't do
They don't,
any.
we don't do
No.
that.
Mm-mm.
TDC does
T-
not do
They've
that.
actually
TDA
come to
is
us
the
for
only one
billboards.
That does
that
the
does
billboards.
billboards.
So, and I guess here's my question, maybe, okay, so anyone coming wanting to, airing of the quilts and whatever, pumpkin fest, all of those, but someone outside in Macon County, outside the town, come before us, and it's not a town, we're advertising billboards.
There's not a specific event downtown.
Right,
that
if
may
it's
be
out,
in
okay,
the
example, the Ruby
The Ruby
motorcycle
Bash.
thing.
Bash, yeah.
Okay, so they came before us
Mhm.
they come before us for billboard?
2 billboards as well.
Okay, so is that something that, because TDC doesn't offer billboards, so then they come before us?
We have given them billboards in the past, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they can do that because
TDC's come to us for billboards.
because several of the groups, like Pumpkin Fest, the all of them coming up now.
Right.
Pumpkin Fest.
The barbecue festival comes to us for a billboard,
Yeah, the barbecue festival.
which is through the chamber.
A lot of them, the people go to both the TDC and the TDA.
Mhm.
Folk Fest is there for both. The Scottish Festival is both
For funding.
for
Funding.
funding. Yeah,
Mhm.
and they include a billboard in their funding request from us, but they're still getting funding from the TDC. They don't charge for that. So there's a lot of people that go to both
Mhm.
for these
So
festivals
are
in
we
our
supposed
area.
to, as a TDA, fund, if someone comes before us and they're, and I'm using them as an example because that's the first thing that came to my
Yeah.
mind, but let's say they're motorcycle, the Ruby Bash or whatever they're called, and they ask us for monies, should they be asking us for monies or should they go to the TDC for monies?
We
They
don't
can
give
do
monies.
both. We
Well-
can do both.
Yeah.
They can do
Yeah.
Right,
both.
right,
They can do both.
they can.
I mean, that's. the
And most of
thing,
them
but-
do,
and-
I think.
and
But
a
the
good
history of
number
this
them do.
board, we've tended not to try and go that route.
Yeah, we're trying to.
That's what I'm saying, not
Our
monies,
board,
but
our
advertising.
primary
Advertising, right.
interest is a little more local.
Mhm.
So our goal is to bring people
Out
to
of
town.
Right.
Tourism dollars.
Right.
And if an event is scheduled to be somewhere remote,
Right.
and they're not bringing,
It's not really
and based on
going to
numbers, I
affect-
mean,
right.
we've got events here that bring several thousand people to town and we give them $2,000.
Filling
Right.
motels,
Right.
Okay?
restaurants.
We're not gonna fund, as an example, we're not gonna give somebody who's having something out of town $5,000 for their event, because they may bring a couple hundred people to town.
Where the TDC may, because the TDC looks more at a wider.
A wider area. of the
Wider
county.
area.
Right,
Okay.
Because if they're filling hotels that are paying the tax
in the
Mhm.
county.
in the county, then that's fine, you know. That's fine for the TDC, so it's a little different. It's a little different layering, but we get people that come to both for the same event.
Yeah. And going forward, you know, we can save us a lot of time and headache if we decide what we want to do, what we want to promote, how we want to promote Franklin as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that takes care of a lot of other stuff. I mean, this is the direction we're going forward,
Yeah,
Well,
we-
I
and
think
if these
that-
things fall within it, we'll consider it.
Right.
Yeah, we are Franklin centered. I mean, we're not interested in, not as much, I don't think, in events that are not going to be, have their
Well-
focus in the town.
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of wide open, though. I mean, who's to say some other things don't affect commerce in Franklin, you know? If they could be staying, people that are participating in an event outside of Franklin could be staying in a hotel in Franklin. I mean, where do we draw the line, you know?
Yeah, that's, and that, part of that is the drop of the event. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
looking at 3,000
That's where we need
people,
to decide as a board.
Right.
you know,
Right.
What are we
3,000
gonna
people
fund and what we're
walking the
not?
street.
Is it tourism related? Is it bringing in tourism? If not, then we don't need to be funding it.
Right.
Because that's what our job is, as board members, is funding something that's gonna bring something here. That's gonna bring people to fill the hotels, to be filling the restaurants, spending money here.
Yeah.
Whether it helps somebody out of the county or not, that's great, but, I mean, it needs to be.
But primarily, we're trying to focus.
Draw
in town.
outside people in,
Downtown.
not supply it, not that we don't want the locals to have an event, but not to just say, hey, we're gonna hand some money here because it's a local event, or, you know, like,
But it's a simple formula. If you don't have people staying in the hotels, you have no money to spend as a board.
True.
Yeah, they're the ones.
Yeah, that's, there
They
you
are the
go,
ones
it's
with the
simple.
vested interest in this board. No one else provides this board money other than those hotels.
Right.
And if there are any rental properties within the city limits. So that's where your money comes from.
which there's not many
And
anymore.
the
Like,
And it
events
goes
that
back to
fit-
what Matt said, well, how do you know if that event way out there, those people are staying in town?
That's what our job is to do.
Right.
Figure that out.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, and we got to see where that's coming from, but obviously, you know, if it is a town-centered event, then more than likely they're gonna be closer. And that's our option
I
there.
apologize for getting on the TDC question. We've kind
No,
of
that's
digressed here a little bit.
Because there is, like I say, both,
Yeah.
those people, a lot of the people that are requesting fundings from the TDA, they go to the TDC also, and they're asking for the same amount. Or in some cases, the amount will vary.
Well, I
But-
think our goal as a board is we need to determine how much money do we want to put aside for grants, for
Yeah.
festivals? How much do we want to put for advertisement? How much are we going to do the billboards? I mean, I think there needs to be a pool of money, and that's what we have for the year, and this is what we determine. What is a tourist
Yeah.
drawing event and what isn't?
And you know, when we do that, you know, if we can set to kind of stick to the budget, we could focus more on kind of some of the ideas you had, Matt. I mean, we wouldn't spend every meeting trying to go over, oh, do we have this, do we have that to do that? We
Yeah.
could actually maybe start focusing more on how can we track some things closer? Because once, you know, if we said we're gonna give,
Or how do we market Franklin more
Yeah,
as a
how- we could
whole
start
instead
maybe
of just
free, you know,
specific festivals?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as a destination, I mean, that's what I see for Franklin. I mean, we're perfect base camp. I see other neighboring counties and towns saying we're base camp for outdoor adventure or what have you. That's my area of interest.
Yeah.
But, you know, I see us doing more of that than being,
Yeah, but the
Festivals
festivals
draw.
help us draw. The
they're a piece of the
festivals help us
puzzle,
draw.
but they shouldn't be the lead, the headliner,
Yeah.
to put it in a nutshell.
What's filling the hotels, what's spending money in the restaurants, that's not what I'm worried about. I mean, it's
Yeah,
getting
okay.
tourism dollars inside, so.
Right.
And those are, you know, and that, if we look at it, I mean, the last 2 years, we spent 50% of our budget on Comcast. We spent 25% of our budget on billboards. And that's why we're getting lean on the funding, because we got more and more people that are coming, wanting to drink at the well. And we don't have enough left over, so we need to maybe look at cutting back on some of these other things.
Well, I think too is
or
holding them accountable.
Be a little more selective on what we actually
You know,
fund.
they're filling out an application, they need to come back and tell us how it worked. Not next year, not the year later.
I
I
agree
mean,
with
it needs
that.
to come back right after the event and say, hey. And I think we need to leave an open spot for those events and say, you need to come back to us. If we're gonna grant this, you need to be back, the event's at this date. Well, our next meeting is on this date. You need to come back
Right.
and give us.
Yeah, there's gotta be some.
If we do an about face here, instead of being, receiving, taking in funding requests and turn it around and say, here's what we've got, what do you want to do? And we'll decide whether that's the direction we want to go. That'll really just kind of
And now the
save us all.
The TDC last month at the meeting, they're cracking down on that as well. About, they're kind of in a similar position where you're giving, and what are your results? People are not coming
Right.
back and telling you, this worked. They're just coming back the next year and saying, okay, I need $2,000
Right.
more. So they have really started cracking down. That is one thing we're working on there. Another thing that they're working on is instead of, okay, like if they're looking at direct advertising cost, let's say that $800, a group came and they needed $800 specifically for advertising. The TDC is moving, I believe, in the direction of, instead of just saying, okay, here's $800, writing a check and saying, here's $800 to use towards advertising, they're actually moving in the direction to where, hey, you bill us. If you want to use the Mountain Laurel, okay, we'll grant you $800, but Georgia Mountain Laurel has to bill the TDC and then we'll pay it from there.
Which we already do.
We do on some.
And is that to make sure that the money
It's
is
specifically
going
where-
where they say it's going?
It is.
Is there also a
That's a
mileage
bad
limit
idea.
now on how far out they have to advertise?
They've considered a mileage, we've been considering a mileage
You
limit.
know, advertising in the Macon County News or the
Franklin
Press.
or wherever.
Franklin Press,
Right.
you know, their circulation is predominantly the county. Well,
Yeah.
we're looking for a
They're gonna have to go
much
further.
wider range.
I think that's too where we come about with the billboards too, because we knew that was a direction auction that was advertised and that was people that was passing through, that's not gonna pick up a paper or gonna see a paper.
Because they can work out some, you know, Macon County News has been very generous to do, I forget what they call
Like a
it, but
ban.
on the banner on the top.
Skybox.
I mean,
Skybox.
yeah, Skybox. We call it Sky. I knew there was a name. But they've been generous in doing that as an advertising media for events in town, events in the area. And so there's, you know, if they're gonna do that, then that gets the locals, because it's on the front page. So we don't need to pay for an ad out of our money anyway. We want them to advertise farther out.
Further out.
Because then we know that when we bring somebody into town, then definitely they're gonna eat here, they're gonna buy gas here, and maybe stay.
Would you guys agree that it'd be a good thing for the TDA and the TDC to have a conversation and communication about things
Yeah.
like that?
I agree.
I think once we get back up to
Okay.
At
full
like a
snuff,
joint
I would
meeting?
like a joint
And
meeting.
that's what I was gonna
It'd be
ask, do
good.
you ever do that? Do we ever do that?
We've
We have in the past
We've
once.
had one, we've
But
had
it's
one,
good.
Okay.
and I had requested that combination.
Pull
And we
other
do do the
stakeholders
visitor-
into the conversation,
NC
too.
with them.
Yeah.
The visit NC, we did do.
Yes,
did
And we do
advertise.
some split ads where we'll pick up part of the cost of the advertisement for
We
the
meet
county,
halfway.
for the county as a whole, you know.
When did this happen?
Ooh, it was before, it was when we were doing the Story Point Media.
Yeah.
We met to get our points.
Is
So
that
we
the
did-
NC Travel Guide?
Yeah.
NC Travel Guide
And we
magazine?
did
Traffic,
meet
right,
with the
yeah.
The Yugo tour, that's what I was thinking of. That's the one I
Which you
went
can
to.
see.
Yeah, we
where
did
that
that
was.
one, but we also did the NC Travel Guide split.
So it was a co-op between TDA and TDC essentially? Okay.
It was, and then we,
I like that.
yeah, because we
I wish we could do
co-op,
more of that, to be,
yeah,
Yeah.
we co-opted with another co-op that was the Smoky Mountain Host, which
Oh, okay.
is the, what is it, the 7 western counties. So, you know, we co-opted with them in a co-op ad.
and you know, they might co-op with like Comcast or something. Because, I mean, that has to be
Yeah.
bringing, I would like to see more opportunity with,
That's a big chunk of money.
I mean, it is.
Before
we're gonna
we
just-
go
we're
any
gonna talk
further
about
with
that,
that, I do want to have Delana, I did ask her to come to this meeting for WLOS. And I know she's sitting over here, and I know we're talking about everything, but before we start saying, okay, put money here, put money there, is to give her the opportunity to tell her that our options too with advertising
Oh,
and
yeah.
splitting costs. And I listened to it, and I think she's got some great ideas, and I
We're-
think that it would be great for the board.
We're
to
slowly
come in here.
drifting from billboards.
We're getting, well, this is the purpose
20 miles away.
of why we're here, so we can kind of
Usually what I
drift.
do.
Well, we go from
You're welcome.
billboards to Comcast, and I think that she needs to be given an opportunity to speak before we decide on this or that or where we're going. So
Oh,
we
yeah,
know our
well,
options.
she's on the agenda here.
Right.
So, Delane, if you would like to
Does
speak
Comcast
with
go
the board.
first? I mean, add any? I'm okay with that.
Oh, no, Comcast is
Comcast.
not here.
Not here.
No.
Okay, I saw them on
Well,
the
I was saying
agenda.
before we go anywhere
Okay.
else, I think that they need to see what,
Thank you.
also, there's advertising
Tony's-
opportunities elsewhere that we could do with
I appreciate
TDC
that.
or split costs from one to the other.
Tony's our front man
All
for
right.
the Comcast
Oh, I
program.
understand.
I'm not a
There's
Comcast guy.
discussion.
And what I
They run through my agents.
We've decided
I
on
understand.
funds for
Um,
before we did that, I thought that it was an option to give her a time to speak and give hers, and then we go from
Well, yeah,
where do we want
but,
to go?
yeah,
And I have
And then we'll
no,
go back to billboards.
we can.
and I have a presentation to show you, and I logistically, I'm not sure how I can do this. And of course, for your benefit as well, I can send you the hyperlink though. I can send all of you the hyperlink. Am I allowed to come to the table
Oh,
over
yeah,
here?
sure.
Okay, I just didn't want to do anything that wasn't copacetic. Appreciate that. And I think also I can speak to some of your ideas.
I have seen.
Now I've lost myself here as far as my positioning is locked. I hope I remember. Oh, here I am. Okay, good. I'm Delene Morgan with WLOS TV, and I have 20 years experience in television advertising. Before that, I was associated with print, 2.5 years there, and I'm happy to say that I'm in television because it's sight, sound, motion, and emotion. So our television station is an extremely strong station. We do skew upper income, upper educated, and as you know, what with the price of gas these days, it's going to take more funds to travel. So that's something for you all to consider. Don't forget that our market is the 37th largest market, television market, of which we've got 846,000 homes, unless I've transposed that. 846,000 homes, television households, of which 520,000 are in upstate South Carolina. So we are considered the Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, Anderson DMA, and we even reach into Georgia, northeast Georgia. So it's an exciting market. It's what we call a hyphenated market. I've always sold in hyphenated markets. But anyway, so you've got all of western North Carolina, 34,000 homes in Georgia. So western North Carolina, you're talking 290,000 homes in western North Carolina. We're talking TV households. And another thing to consider is this: because we are an ABC affiliate, we are one of the large affiliates. Know that people focus in on the news. They make an appointment to watch the news. You probably have different tastes when it comes to prime time and whatnot. But you do follow the weather and sports and what the happenings. Another thing to think about is this, that we reach 99% of those homes because 44% of the homes are cabled. That means they have the capability to subscribe to cable if they wish to. And we keep seeing an increase in satellite homes, so that's 48%. When you're talking about our market, that's extremely high. So in other words, if you were to advertise, say, and use cable as one of your options, and I'm talking cable in western North Carolina or even South Carolina, or for that matter, northeastern Georgia, then you're going to be missing a lot of those homes. You have to buy multiple cable systems. Okay. I was pleasantly surprised and pleased, Matt, to hear you say something in reference to wanting Franklin as a destination, because I've got the ticket for you.
What's my cut?
No, we and I hope you saw some of this last year. We launched something called Road Trippin' last year. And it was, I think it was 12 or 13 weeks last year. This year it's going to be 22 weeks. We're so excited. We have 3 presenting sponsors thus far. We tried last year to get a car wrapped so we could go down the road and have our presenting sponsors' logos on there. But our presenting sponsors are Ingalls. This year, Appletree, Honda, Acura, they wish to do this again. It was very successful for them. And then also Tom Johnson Camping Center. So I'm very excited about that. We are getting a CRV and we're wrapping it on Friday. It's true. Yeah, so we're very excited. But the whole concept of the road tripping is to visit destination cities, Matt, thank you very much, and of which the very, very first week will be Black Mountain. So what we will do is we will showcase a business that, for example, if it, for example, also, say the fun category. What would you think about as far as in Black Mountain is a great place to have fun, a place to stay, a place to eat, you know, that sort of thing. So we've got various categories. In fact, I have the prezi for you right here. So I'm going to let our host, Ken, take it away. And I'm going to back him up just a bit. Sorry about that, Ken. I know I wish I had this for you. I'll send it to you, anyone who wishes it. Road tripping.
Has anyone seen Road Trippin'? I don't think I have.
Okay, so.
Sorry. It's fine if I can go here. I got you, Ken. This is an overview of the market, which I gave you. some of the information.
Here's how the market demographics should go.
37th market, I'm going to keep on going here, it talks about the demographics there.
So what's the idea behind road tripping? Well, it's a good excuse for me to get out of the house for 22 consecutive weeks.
These are
Really, it's a
hosts,
cool
we
way to
know
explore
this.
surrounding destinations like yours and inspire our viewers to come visit.
So we're just going to be highlighting different cities that within our market as well as Tennessee. There's some destinations. I've got the
Here it is.
itinerary.
Now remember, ring for that bell.
Just talks about, yes, there's also, there's going to be a business each day of the week. For example, your week for Franklin thus far is the week of the 8th, and I think I shared that with you. I have already sold the fun category. Great Smoky Mountain Railroad has taken the fun category. So I have, actually, usually the Tourist Development Authority or Council would take we do have something on our website where, of course, they would give an overview of Franklin. That's just a digital component. So, for example, say on Monday, on the 8th, we'll highlight in a minute and a half, pre-taped, obviously, Ken will visit, and it'll be in reference to Great Smoky Mountain Railroad. So we'll highlight Great Smoky Mountain.
You mean Bryson's?
That's
Yeah,
Bryson's.
that will be, yeah, she pointed that out to me.
Okay.
But they're excited about being a part of this.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Wait a second now.
okay.
But the road tripping is, road tripping to Franklin?
That's the theme for the week, that's our destination week. Now, in its
So hey, go over to
contract.
Bryson City and grab a trip.
No,
I'm a little confused. You just didn't sell, you didn't sell anything in
Well,
Franklin?
that's
or-
what I thought, well, I mean, they have said that they would wish to do that. They have to come to Franklin. to get-
July, gotcha.
July 8th, that's when you're talking
July
about?
8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so and we'll talk about that, man, I appreciate that. 6A to 7A, it will be featured, 6A to 7A. So, these are fun, and we've got them. Here's the true benefit of the fact that it has a life on our website. It is archived on our website. So you can pull up, once the city is unveiled, then you can pull up the various fun things to do. It lives on, has shelf life.
Well, we start May 6th and end October 4th.
Okay, Ken. There you go. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's one of those things where you dare not give them out beforehand. They read, you've heard the drill. There you go. Okay, so there you see it. There are your destinations. And we're going to, obviously, Hendersonville last year. I sold Hendersonville and Morganton. And I was very, very pleased with that. We showcased, for example, in Morganton, they have a beautiful performance arts center as well. So I thought about Smoky Mountain Center for the Performing Arts. Obviously, it's their choice if they wish to do that. But anyway, I have the destination.
That webpage I was telling you about.
But how many people knew that Morganton had a theater?
I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't either.
My brother,
Until she told me.
my brother lives in Morganton, and he didn't tell me either.
And it's gorgeous, because I watched the whole thing, the road trip.
That's what I would ask you to do. Go to our website and look at road tripping. You'll see the icon, you'll see the cube, and we also have a tower. And then you will, you'll be able to really get a feel for this as far as how it's archived. So and also another thing I did, no one else did this, but for Morganton, we highlighted a golf course there. So that was it was a beautiful golf course, So we can customize this according to, each individual city. It's not just cookie cutter.
But so far, July the 8th is what Franklin's schedule.
Right, that's our.
And so then do you have, the golf course that you highlighted,
Mhm.
does your golf course pay
Yes.
for their,
Each of those
bit of-
strokes pay, in fact, each of the segments is $900 to be featured, of which they will get a 1.5+ minute feature produced. Ken, of course, is very, you've seen the example. So that's what I would urge you to do. is to visit the website and see that. So that was just a thought for you in relationship to road tripping. And let me explain this. Right here in the screen right here is where the TDA or the TDC's message would be. Now, they don't have a minute and a half that would air during our 6, 8, 70 news. They, but it is the first thing you see right here when you click in there. And you'll also see them destination sponsor, if that makes sense. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And investment summary.
God, what's in it for me? Well, for starters, your market will be featured over the course of 1 week on WLOS TV. A 1-minute plus feature on your business shot and produced by WLOS TV. That feature will air during News 13 this morning at 6 a.m., hosted by yours truly. You can use the audio and video to create an exciting advertising campaign.
You can have your drugs posted on their
On
website.
WLOS.com with a link to your website. The road trip page will be on WLOS.com for 1 entire year.
From its launch. Let me explain that. From the launch of it. So I think Ken's going to wind up now, I think. It's about time anyway.
I don't know how many of you watch the 6 o'clock news, but to Good Morning
6
America.
a.m. A lot of your believe me, females are, seems like it's $900, as I said, per, and that's it. Thank you, sir.
So every day of the week, for that particular week, will be Franklin, is what you're saying?
Right, exactly.
So on, let's say, the first day, someone can purchase to do some advertising, okay? Is it only one per day?
For this particular project, for
this
road
road
tripping
tripping.
to Franklin, yes, it's one time per day that week. So each business, you know.
So you have a total of 7,
Five.
Five
It's Monday
of the
through
week.
Friday,
so
exactly.
5.
Right, right. So that's just one element of what it is that we have to offer, and I think that road tripping, that we're very excited about it at the station. You will see promotional spots running, you know, starting the week of the 6th. In fact, we're going to do some teaser type things ahead of that as well. But the other purpose in which I wanted to speak with you would be, for example, I would think that you could target upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, to draw people to stay with you over here and to visit, you know, your different, obviously it's a beautiful area. And you've got a substantial amount of folks to target when you're talking about 540,000, yeah, sorry, that's okay. And if there's someone else missing, I happen to have, okay, if someone's missing, you know, an extra one. So I think that we would make a lot of sense for you to utilize our station. Again, we've got a tremendous following, and it's not going to break the budget. And I like your thought process as far as, for example, the use of a donut commercial is what I like, when you have a generic beginning, a generic ending, and in the middle, you can change out that message. You know, for example, I think you said the airing of the quilts or something like that, you know, have that message. And I generally would start it no more than about 10 days ahead of the actual event. To a lot of event-oriented types of things like that. And then what I would suggest that you do is utilize digital. Have a presence, consider having a presence on our website for perhaps a more generic message, discover Franklin, you know, that sort of thing, or, you know, discover Macon County, you know, that sort of thing. Can you think of anything that you would like to, do you have questions? Yeah, you promised me you'd ask me some questions.
I wanted you to talk about what you told me too, like in the morning. I mean, I think you touched on it briefly.
Okay, viewership numbers.
This is where it got me. And I think it's just because I get up 5-something in the morning and I turn it to WLS because that's the weather and they tell you everything, and then I watch it, and then I go to Good Morning America and I watch that at work. But just the viewpoints from that and how many people that you're targeting
Right.
at that
Well-
time in the morning and who you're targeting. in the morning.
Exactly. So for example, if you're talking about the seasonality, and we have, there is a science to television. We live and die by, we don't die, but we live by the Nielsen books, as you know, probably. And you know when we're in a sweeps period. I mean, GMA, Good Morning America, tells us about it all the time, right? But you've got February, May, July, and November are your sweeps months. But anyway, what we do is, for example, that's how we determine, okay, how many people are really viewing your station at a specific time. Well, even 5A to 6A in the morning. And this was done by looking at November, what we call November shares. That means percentage of viewers times the HUT level. How many people are really, what is the HUT level of people viewing television, for example, for May? So that's how I would tell you how many people were viewing, say, in second quarter. So 15,800 are viewing, even 5A to 6A in the morning. That's persons, if I look specifically at the demographic 35 to 64. If I looked at adults 35 plus, then you're talking about 22,000. So it just depends on 22,100. So, for example, 6A to 7A, let me just share some 46,000 adults 35 plus. I'm sorry, my throat's going.
Do you like a water?
Yes, please, yeah. 46,000 adults 35 plus viewing 6A to 7A. Good Morning America, 44,100. And what I also talked to Candy about, what I talked to Candy about was the fact that, yeah, if you're trying to target that upstate South Carolina person, I think that that would be an example right there. What you've pulled is an example of just how we would prospectively put a schedule together. This is what I'm sort of going off of right now. Okay, that's what we call an set of the bales.
This is different than.
Yeah, this is what I'm speaking off of right now. And I'll show you how to read this. Like right there, that's 46,000. That means you look at your thousands column, which is a lot of people at one time seeing your commercial. Good Morning America, 44,000 adults 35 plus. Noon news. This is a great area that won't break the bank. 33,000 viewing the noon news. 5P to 6P, 53,400 viewing the 5P to 6P at one time. 71,200 adults 35 plus, 6 o'clock news. So it's pretty amazing when you think about it. And you're thinking that what you're basically doing, you're renting an audience for them to see your message in the comfort of their home. So what better way to target them and perhaps influence them. So this is what I was speaking of right here. And that's the thousands of, yeah. That you have I wanted her to see, I wanted Candy to see how we put something together. How we put a schedule together, yeah.
All right, so what would the cost be related to?
Okay, for example, and you can see that, and these do, at times they do vary. Right now I'm working on second quarter, but for example, you'll pay as little as $125. It varies from $100 to $125 for noon news. That's very, very cost effective for a 30-second commercial. Yeah, very inexpensive, you know. 5A to 6A in the morning, you might pay $75 to $100 per 30-second commercial. Now, right now, for second quarter, Good Morning America is it's running about $300 per 30-second commercial. But it's a larger audience too. So it's going to probably skew, again, especially Good Morning America, upper income, higher educated, that sort of thing. And what I would tell people, I've got some clients who will say, okay, Lena, I've got to have that 6 o'clock news. I've got to have that 11 o'clock news. You know, they don't see that, yeah, there are people viewing all parts of the day. And that, you know, a good plan, and I would advise people, no, you don't need 6 o'clock news 5 days a week or 7 days a week. You know, you can get the job done by using some 6A to 7A, some 6 o'clock news, but maybe a couple of times that week, that sort of thing. So again, I build a pattern, I build a schedule, and
How are we limited as far as the schedule goes and what we're committed to?
I would say this to you, that what I would urge you to do is, for example, book at least a quarter ahead of time. It's because what we're doing is we're reserving our seat on a plane.
Right.
And that would be good to do.
Right.
Because
So you're not
right
left with them.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and I've got clients right now who, they are on cash in advance type basis or whatever, and I'm trying to tell them, your seat's reserved on the plane, but you're like on standby. Because unless, yeah, we've got to get you on the plane with a ticket, with a good ticket, and you're waiting truly. Yeah, paying ticket, that's right, that's correct. So anyway, so that's what I would recommend, because right now I'm furiously trying to get my second quarter orders in. If the longer we wait, for example, if we get into, say, May, and you've got an event in June, then you're not going to get the best rate. You're not going to get the best rate, and you're not going to get the type of schedule that I would feel comfortable building for you. And the bottom line is, for example, you're looking at when I built something for Candy to look at, and this was a schedule that was, for example, for a month was $4,550. That was the very first month. That was a 2.55. The whole key is to build your frequency, to say I'm going to target these many people, and I'm going to do it, say, 2.55 times or 3 times. And your goal is to get a 3 frequency at least. And then, and as you can see, you're going to have some momentum there. I'm sure this is the same thing that you do with your Comcast folks and things like that. They have a method to their madness as well. Now, and also, when you're talking about an urban area like Atlanta, you're going to have more people that are tuned into, say, cable than you would, say, a rural area. But the makeup of our market, hyphenated market, is such that, yeah, we're 48% satellite, so which is unheard of. This is one of the largest areas for satellite penetration. You have a question for me?
I'm sure I will later.
Oh, that's okay. I want you to email me. You can email me and ask away, and I'll send you the Prezi that I think is better when you see it on your own screen versus with the audio here.
Thank
But
you.
anyway.
So you're looking at, just to kind of wrap my head around it a little bit, let's say, like this schedule that you've built here, let's say we kind of did it a little bit reverse and looked at July of 2013 to May of 2014.
Right.
Pretty much about $5,000 a month. Is that a rough?
That, I mean, you can, and you are the ones in the driver's seat. I mean, you know, obviously, I would tell you, if you're trying to get something accomplished for, I mean, I've got clients who, they've got $1,500 and they're trying to do something, you're probably not going to see the results that you want to see with that type of budget. I would say, and it depends upon, like you say, your events that are the most important to you. That's how I think we can help you. It's funny because on the way here I made a cold call and I just spied the Great Outdoor. What a beautiful place that is. And I just thought, you need my station, you need TV, you know, because there's no way a print ad can convey how nice that is. I have no disrespect to you. So anyway, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. But that would be a recommendation. Can you get, for example, what you want to accomplish with less budget than that? Yeah, you could probably spend between $300 to $3,500.
But a 5, we're getting a broad, that's right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, you know, you'll be the ones to really work on your budget, and my job is to, with what budget you do allow me to work with, then I want to eke out as many spots and give you as many people, as many eyeballs seeing your spot as possible. We also have, obviously you've seen our 4-second IDs. You know, I have one at 6:58 every night. And I've got some in prime, that's right, and she can be Vanna for me, thank you. So 4-second IDs are a great option for you. I mean, they're as little as, you don't have one sheet on that, but I can send you one.
That's fine.
Yeah. And it's $100 right now per 4-second ID if I run them 5P to, say, 11:35 at night, that sort of thing.
Is the, right before 7 o'clock, and I guess it comes on other times too.
6:58, yeah.
The TV
Yeah.
bank. the
TD
time and
Bank,
date.
now that is not
Is that-
available, they have.
But is that a
pretty
second,
much-
4-second ID type of thing?
Yeah, they took those in bulk, actually. I'll tell you, another client of mine is Tyson's Furniture, that airs that, and, so that works very, very well for him. He loves those. In fact, I love them in prime time because, I mean, imagine Dancing with the Stars. We premiered that on Monday night. It has done phenomenally, and imagine if you had your 4-second ID about one of your events coming up in that, you know. So that's exciting. Another thing that you might think about is also Spotlight Carolina, except that it's been such a hot commodity that it's almost booked up and not available, but it's a 3-minute, 10-second look-live, pre-taped interview between our hostess, who is Tiffany Irvin, that's right, and it's $700 per showing. And as I said, it's been so popular that all the placement of that has been gobbled up. It's mostly been reserved. So we are thinking about having that on the weekend, in fact, between, say, 6A and 8A in the mornings on our weekend news. So we do have, as you know, 6A to 7A news on the weekend, as well as 7A to 8A, as well as Good Morning America. And the other thing, one great thing to tell you, to share with you, and Tony, this I'm sure is almost unheard of, since when do you have free production offered? But we can offer our new clients to our station $1,000 production credit, which is pretty exciting, which translates to, you don't have you don't have to get your, it's like you have to pay for your billboard production, but yeah, we can get you basically that translates to 2 30-second commercials produced for you and no charge.
But the rest we have to produce? No.
The road tripping there's no production there. So
Okay.
that's exciting.
It's like a personal thing. They drive
Yeah.
around and show you all the
Yeah.
neat little places. And
But what
Yeah.
about just like the morning, I guess, not the road tripping, but the other that we've been discussing?
Well, we will produce for you 2 30-second commercials at no charge.
That was my
So
question.
that's exciting. I mean, you know, for your situation, for your purposes, you know, again, I think the donuts, if you're talking about the donut concept, then yeah, I'd say that would probably translate to like 3 free donuts for your base commercial, whatever. You know, so you'll have some variation there. But we keep our costs lean and mean. That is not a profit center for us, the production. It's really just a service we offer our clients. We do have to charge after the initial $1,000 credit has
That's
been
my
utilized,
question.
but
Okay.
it is not going to be something that's going to be cost prohibitive. Okay, will work, and you won't. For example, you won't say yes to something and then be surprised at the cost. You know, we'll talk it through, and you'll be given options as far as is it an edit that we can do internally right there at the station without going out.
But if we could provide, after we ate up that $1,000 credit,
Right.
if we could provide the videos or the production on our own, you're willing to accept that, right?
If it is high definition, please. Yeah, if it's high definition, and I'm sure it is.
Okay.
Sure they run high definition in Atlanta, right? The other thing that I wanted to tell you, I mentioned briefly in reference to visibility on our website, and we do have some excellent opportunities there. We also have Facebook. We're active on Facebook. We've got about 85,000 Facebook fans now, which is huge. But we can air banners on our website for as little as $8 cost per thousand, and that's down from the $10 cost per thousand that's on the one sheet for digital. So can you think of any other questions that perhaps you have, or?
We may have you come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my, yeah.
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to. Sugar and I will come.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate it.
Candy, do you know how advertising WLOS is working with Performing Arts Center at all? Because I know they advertise all day.
I can get that information
It's
for you.
just-
I know they've
because I
been
know
doing
they're
it, because I've
here,
been
so-
seeing them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we.
Constantly in the morning, so you must watch the morning
I do.
news.
I do.
Have you
Well,
seen the
I-
road trip into?
Oh, good. Thank you.
But, yeah, the theater has been advertising.
I know
on
they
WLOS.
advertise for
I've seen it.
shows and stuff. So I just it'd be just because it's from here. Just curious if they know what kind of traffic they've gotten from that. Might help you guys.
Well, I know that they were the ones that, wanted me to speak with her about getting on that for the TDA too, as far as how it's helping.
And if they suggested, it must work for them.
Yes. And I wanted to bring that up so that we could wrap our head around everything and then decide what do we want to do with funds.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out.
And I felt bad because she has her dog in the car.
I wish you just said that.
I'm sorry. I was like, she's been sitting.
All right.
But she was on the end of the agenda and I was like,
Well,
okay,
it's
gonna
cool while
move
it-
her.
you see that work,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
We're
cool.
not going anywhere.
Now it's
She goes, she won't have no
They're-
seat
I'm gonna
flap or
have
nothing in her car.
Society for Prevention of Cruelty,
Right.
talking with me. Oh,
This would be the bad place for it.
Thanks. Oh, no. So, yes, please email me if you have any additional questions.
We will, and thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for taking your time.
Thank you for the.
Tell the dog,
If you wanted to see.
Tell me about
Thank you.
Yeah, you need the water for the dog.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Now we can go back to billboards if you would like. Discuss that.
Sorry, I
Ready
didn't.
to check out.
It's okay, I wasn't. I didn't know if she wanted me to tell
That
everyone
fits
her
to
dog
you,
was on
I'm
the car. But I just wanted us to look at everything before
Yeah,
we
that's
start
good.
making that decision of like, oh, we're gonna put money here,
Yeah.
put money
Yeah, that's
there.
good.
We need to weigh our options
I
of
agree.
exactly where, how much we wanna put in this corner for that, for the fiscal year. How much do we wanna put for this? And then limit that, and that's it. I don't think we should say, and it's up to people for their applications and their grant requests to come to us at a decent time, and maybe
Yeah.
us advertise that in the paper and say, hey, we're looking at grant requests, please get them in by this time. And leave that window for them to
Right.
get a hold of us, and then we could sit there and say, okay, they came to us, these people, new things come up all the time, I understand that. That's probably where we could put some
Discretionary.
finances down, just in case something does come up that was something new.
Are we going to be specifying tonight amounts?
I
Are we,
think that
like,
this
are we-
is something we need to
Some
talk
will
about, that we
think
can vote on at our next meeting and say that this is the budget,
And
what we're hoping for.
we'll have the upcoming months, because we've cut, after April, really, and we can talk about
Glad
this in
you brought
April.
that up.
Because, we've cut out grant requests after we get through April. I mean, we're gonna have
Right.
really.
Several months to do.
May, we'll have a
Right.
few months, which I think this is good groundwork.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not expected tonight to talk about, okay, let's give Comcast.
That's why I wanted to make
Right.
sure at
Yeah.
first that I told everyone that we're not voting on anything,
Right.
but we do need to decide how much money are we gonna put
Start
aside
playing
for
with some
everything.
numbers
Right.
in our, yeah.
Okay.
And you can use your little long sheet and a
That
pencil
Tony-
and just start playing.
And I
And
have
that's the
to
best way to
say,
do it.
This is nice, actually.
on Tony's behalf, if we didn't have them, oh my goodness, because I know we were running around like crazy, and those board members are not here, but trying to keep up with the billboards, trying to keep up with the schedule, internet site. I mean, it's a volunteer that we do, and I'm sure we all want to be here, but, I mean, your services, we couldn't have done them without them. So I think it's very important that Tony's a big part of that.
Right.
Because he's one, because everybody has their jobs during the day. I mean, I can't sit in front of a computer and do that or go chase, and I know that you get behind
He's
you.
got an
but-
eye for it.
And not that you sit on the computer, but you're good. Okay,
know
I'm
what
just
you're
gonna
saying.
shut up right now.
I know what you're saying.
But
But we're ready for it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But I mean, going and checking those billboards, I mean, you're out there fighting for us and doing the website and getting the commercials done and getting with Michael when the rest of us don't have to worry about that.
Glad to do it. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I hope that come out okay, and I hope you forgive me if it didn't.
We did fine.
What's next?
Well, going on to print advertising, non-print advertising, sponsorship opportunities. I guess we need to just be thinking about maybe make a list right now, what we feel is important as a board. That's something that we correct me if I'm wrong, that's important to us that we need to look at for that fiscal year that we know we need to make them on our marketing.
And if you'll look on that, on the last page, what I did was I sat down and just kind of looked at some past expenditures we've had this current year. And, you know, after looking at this, we really don't have a lot of print.
And if you have a wish list or a laundry list of places that you would like to advertise, I have a lot of rates already from different publications, but I'd be glad to chase those down for you and just say, you know, if you want a quarter page in this, it's gonna cost you X amount of dollars. If you want to, you know.
Now TDC does a lot of print on our end.
You know,
And
for
I think
instance,
that's where
the-
there's a wide range, especially with the TDC and
Yeah.
other people. You know, they've got a certain market that they do. and-
You've kind of hit a niche here with what you all do.
That's true.
With the Comcast and the billboard thing. And
'Cause
that
they are
that
benefiting
Saddlebags
from
pub was a nice little pub.
Mhm.
And it's a niche publication. And it targets the different group to get them to come to Franklin. So the TDA kind of seems to be
And he's still waiting. He
hitting
emailed me, he's
the
been,
niche type markets, which I think is great.
As
You know,
opposed to,
as opposed to mainstream publications.
Yeah,
Your North Carolina travel guide, Southern
Right.
and
Living.
see, TDC does that.
Everybody
TDC is
wants in those
concentrating
things.
on that kind of stuff.
Right.
They're concentrating on doing
More print.
more print ads, the stuff that
Advertising
goes out.
overall.
The stuff, if you call North Carolina and says, what do you got? The TDC's got an ad in there.
Right.
And they've been funding that. That's why, you know, I discouraged trying to cover Atlanta with paper. Because we were doing that with Comcast, you know, and
We've tried to
and
target more
actually,
North Carolina.
if you look at the,
Or TDC.
yeah, if you look at the Comcast area, it's basically the northern third of Georgia. It's not just Atlanta, but it's the northern third of Georgia.
And it's more than
And-
44,000 people. Just-
Yeah,
Just to put your numbers into
Yeah.
perspective on what
Yeah.
you spend with the two, Asheville averaged about 44,000 people viewership for that price of spot. You're like at 2.2 million in that market for
Yeah.
the same price of spot on Comcast.
When we
So-
started that, it was 5 counties. Now, they've purchased other cable systems, so it's basically now the northern third. Atlanta's in the middle. And they're doing the northern third, and as a matter of fact, Clay County in North Carolina is a Comcast. So we got a little bit of North Carolina coverage, but that happens.
And Chattanooga too, right?
I believe so,
there's some?
Chattanooga's, they got some in there, but that was why we were focusing on that. And, you know, maybe what we do is be a little more selective and pick our
Pick your
spots instead of taking a whole summer.
Yeah.
You
And we
know,
can do that, right?
And do something to lower that cost, because it was
It's a big chunk.
50%, basically 50% of the budget. So, you know, we've made some headway, and we've seen that that's had an impact, you know. So
And
and
just
that's,
be more targeted.
it's fine too.
and that's something that we do less print ads because
Not really about that.
TDC is doing mostly print.
Okay.
They're hitting the magazines, North
Triple A, we just
Carolina.
did that.
Yeah,
They
AAA.
do a lot of print now that, yeah.
So there's much more print ad that they do, and that's something that we could, by meeting together, we could coordinate.
Right, and we did do the visit and see with them.
Yeah.
that,
We
and we didn't
partnered
get
on
any
one,
statistics
yeah.
on that. And I don't know how anybody else feels with that, but they target the Outer Banks. I mean, even the shows that I've been to, everything's been the Outer Banks, so I'm not happy with them. Because at any
Yeah.
show, it's Outer Banks. Everything, I just seen in a magazine today that I was looking at, and it was North Visit NC, and it was Outer Banks. It wasn't the mountains or anything else, and
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Because we had plugs,
It's
I believe, on
east
the
of the
internet,
Piedmont, yeah.
and nothing.
Maybe we get
Hey,
in.
Piedmont to the
is it a new
water.
company now that's doing their ad campaign? It used to be Journal Communications. Who is doing it?
Journal.
Is it still Journal?
Yeah.
See, they used to take it in one year would be the mountains,
Mhm.
the next year would be the heartland, and the next year would be the coast. And that's how they chose the cover on the Visit NC magazine. And I don't know if their ad campaigns have now followed suit. To where if the coast is featured on the cover this year, if they're gonna get all the print stuff. That kind of leaves everyone else kind of out in the,
On the cold.
yeah, you're hung out there on the hook and just kind of dangling around, trying to
think it was-
figure out who's
I think
gonna
it-
take you off, you know? Pardon?
I think I'd have to check, but I think it's coming back to the mountains.
Next year.
The next year,
Mhm.
the ones we're in.
And that is.
Because
We just looked at purchasing a spot for TDC.
It's extremely expensive.
Yeah, it
Asheville-
is.
Now, it's been a while since I've seen rates, but Asheville used to buy the trifold in the front,
Mhm.
and the last price I saw on that was $89,000.
Oh my God. It's outrageous.
And we bought-
And that's been a while.
We-
The 3 pages of that, because Asheville didn't do it this year.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the
I'm curious to see
TDC's,
why they didn't.
TDC's in
Asheville
the
did.
budget cutbacks. They got hit harder than.
TDC did a page in
Well, it was a co-op, so see.
There's
we-
a co-op,
Mhm.
we've got,
Smoky Mountain.
we've got a piece, some Smoky Mountain Hose took over that spread from
Right.
Asheville. Asheville, I think, is only down to a page instead of the 3-page, but
Because I know that they're pretty
We're the other
widespread. I've
two.
seen them everywhere,
Yeah.
especially for the film.
yeah,
They're
we're
really
on the other
pushing it.
2. So it's a fold out. Well, we did that on the TDC, so we're trying to hit the books. If you're talking about stuff in North Carolina, we're trying to hit those.
That's where we've talked about.
Get the paperwork.
But it wouldn't hurt
So-
y'all to hit a niche publication like the Saddlebags thing.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed to be relatively inexpensive,
It's a nice little public.
and it was a nice
It was
little
a lot
for
of
targeting
fun.
group
Nicely
folks.
done, yeah.
Something
Yeah.
totally different, you know, not your broad, it's like antibiotics, you know, you get,
Yeah.
you get bronchitis, like I've just had, and they give you a broad spectrum, like a shotgun, blow in every direction to try to kill the bug.
Yeah.
Whereas if they knew what it was, they could use a 22. And so with the saddlebags thing, sorry, I'm talking about guns in the town hall, but you use a 22 to target a certain little thing. So, but it's true. I mean, you're using a broad spectrum advertising, trying to get folks, and it's like throwing a net into the
That's
water.
true. That's
Is
good
what you're
analogy.
doing. Whereas with the saddlebags, you're really after motorcycles.
Gosh, we're talking and we pulled out a gun.
Yeah, I never. Scammer concealed carry.
But that, I mean, those kind of
It's been a while.
ads, I mean, we look at those pretty regularly, but the TDA's been going a little farther abroad to get people. And the
But
majority
everything's
of our
being covered,
market,
basically.
Pardon?
I mean, everything's being
everything's
basically covered because
being
they're doing
covered
their.
as probably as well as it can be covered.
Because TDC, we don't do any
Unless we do
billboards.
some huge expenditures and avoid the co-op thing, but then you're talking
Yeah.
about a big chunk of the TDC's budget. But the AAA Go is North Carolina, South Carolina. And that's got a huge delivery range. You know, the Visit NC, the
750,000 still printed, is that what they
Yeah,
still
Yeah,
print?
it's
so,
part of that.
yeah. So those are, they're more focusing on those things than they are like we are.
Which is good, because we don't.
And that's the thing, we don't necessarily need to duplicate. We can get together on some stuff, but we don't need to duplicate.
All our bases are covered.
And so we're trying to cover it all. and they have a little more money than we do. But, I mean, those are what we're looking at. The one thing I would like us to do, if we're getting down to special events, the one thing I would like us to do at the next meeting is go ahead and approve the 3 outstanding events that we have. And that
So are
will
you
still-
asking me to
will
put that
still
on
be in-
page?
It will still be under budget if we hold off on paying the Folk Fest until after July 1st. We'll pay them out of the new budget. And we'll be $1,800 under budget.
If you guys wanna look, I printed,
Didn't we say we would do that at that next meeting?
Yeah.
if you look, I printed,
I just want to be sure
Yeah.
that happens, because we'll be 1,800 under budget if we move the Folk Fest payment in the next budget.
if you look, I'm a visual learner. I have to actually, I made a little list for the April meeting that's upcoming of everything that we have got to make a decision on. We've got the Taste of Scotland, Appalachian Trail Biennial, Smoky Mountain Theater, Airing of the Quilts, Folk Festival, Ruby Bash Rally, Hiker Transportation, and then that billboard request too, that is the Ruby Bash Rally that they're requesting.
So they're requesting billboard and
and-
7,500?
Mhm.
But they are also not until August, correct?
Well, yeah,
Right, but they, if
They're
we
the
start-
last,
yeah.
last weekend in August.
So really, if you figured up the amount that's been requested, it's $31,900. We've got $5,000 to work with.
Yeah, and that's why I was looking at, if you look at the Taste of Scotland and the Airing of the Quilts, we're looking at 4,000 there. We have, if you look at the second page, I believe, the budgeted amount is $5,841. That's what's left. So if we pay the top 2 out of those 3, that would leave us with $1,841.17, so that'll cover.
In time to discuss
Yeah.
things going forward
Yeah,
Yeah.
and kind of close the case on up until our fiscal year starts.
right.
Right.
And
That's-
then
And I
we
think
could-
those months need to be
and
working
I
on
think
what
out of-
we're using our budget
Absolutely.
for.
And
Yeah.
filling seats,
And out of fairness,
Yes.
filling board seats.
that's why I included the Folk Festival, because that'd be next month. At least they know they've got it coming. They're not gonna get it tomorrow, they'll get it after July.
Okay.
After July 1.
Okay.
And that takes us, and then we've still got to decide on what we want to do with the Smoky Mountain Theater.
I think that should be part of our marketing plan, or whether we do it or we don't, and I think they were okay with that.
Yeah.
Really, this is by June, at our June meeting, this is just my thought. That's when I think we should start having actual numbers. So between now and June, we can, when we meet, we can all start playing around with numbers. And then at our June meeting, if we could actually have it specific, then by our July 1st, we're saying, all right, we come up with this in June, it's July, this is it, guys.
So every month, we'll know, we'll be deducting, and there won't be no surprises. Oops, this is all we have. We've already spent
Yeah.
this. We have to consider these, and which ones do we want to consider in, advertising, or which ones do we want to consider in special events?
So we have 2 months, basically. We have
After
the
this.
April meeting, the May meeting, and then
And
by
the
June, we should
Have our numbers.
hopefully have everything narrowed down.
I would
moving
like to
forward.
see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then we start a new fiscal year.
Because, the budget, we pull a number out of the air of $100,000 every year for the budget. It looks like we'll be very close to that in actual money. So, and we'll probably be a little bit above it. We do have, if we get really pushed, we do have some funds that we've saved, which, we voted to stop at 100,000 in the reserve. So if we get pushed, we can dip into the reserve to cover that, but then we've got to be aware that if we don't have money coming in next year
Right,
to cover that, we're not going to be able to do that again.
right, right.
So
Do we not?
because this is to help us when it really hits the fan and you know.
Well, I don't think we should
we
be
have no
dipping
money.
in and be taking, because I think when you have a budget, I mean, if you don't make your budget, then
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Are
where
you
you, that's the
talking
whole
about
purpose of a
Well,
budget.
dipping into a
part of
future
it-
budget or dipping into
Like a reserve?
the reserve?
Dipping into the
Oh.
reserve, but the reserve, you gotta think of it as a means of maintaining a cash flow through the months.
That would be
We
separate
can't-
from what Tony said, that a discretionary fund?
Yeah. Yeah. We'd have
Which we
to,
don't have that right now.
Right.
we'd have to fold money into that, but
Right.
what that allows is that allows
More money.
for us to approve stuff basically next year, and if they need some startup money up front, we can give them some startup money, but we gotta know that we can replenish that next year. So those are all decisions that we'd have to make, but it allows for that cash flow, and if the worst happens, we can operate for a year before we close the doors.
When do I need to present to you all again?
Now, I was gonna ask that with WLOS and with Comcast to give us some pricing of what some optional programs would be. Because without those numbers, we're not gonna be able to proceed.
Contrast the two.
Well, that's what we
Yeah,
got
that's
2
good.
months, and I think she's willing to do that.
Yeah.
And you can work on that, Tony, as well.
And
But
then-
we're not voting on that.
No.
No.
It's a suggestion that's been thrown out there.
Yeah, because once we get a more selective program for Comcast, we can look at that and see, and give us some options on it, not just one program. But that way, we can look at what we want to do, and then the same thing with WLOS. We can see what we want to do.
And do I need to present to you all in June to be included in your budget?
I think
or
we
do you
could
want me
do
to
that
pre- you
before.
want
How
me
much
to
have we
May?
got?
May.
May.
Yeah, because if
May.
we want to be finished in June
Mhm.
and be ready for the new year
Yeah.
to start, I think we need to have that.
Well, depending on when you
April's
get it. April is
I'm telling you,
tight
right?
right now, because that's only 2
Yeah.
weeks away.
Anything-
So
May
let's
would
work
be-
on May. I don't need to.
May.
Right. I was speaking of my contract.
Oh,
Yeah,
The
contract, I
May.
needed to get May.
May.
Yes. This I'll have for you in May as well. Because
Okay.
it'll take us probably a little longer to get, than a couple of weeks to get everything kind of. hammered
Yeah,
out. See
yeah,
what
'cause we're-
Charlene can get up from Atlanta, and then that's
we're less than 2 weeks away from our April meeting.
Yeah.
So,
If we said that, obviously things take time, if we say that we're gonna have our numbers ready in, did we say May?
June.
June.
June, for sure.
Okay.
Talk about it.
Yeah, we should be able to.
We're in
approve
March,
it
April, May.
June. I mean,
Yeah. We're gonna have to.
Yeah.
If he gives
How much?
us, if he
So we need
gives us
to
the
stay
big
focused
stuff.
on those meetings as far as where we
So they'll
want
be
to.
like
Right.
budget meetings.
Yeah,
There's
budget
nothing
meetings.
really-
I'm sure that was all.
And since we won't have funds, that's the perfect time for us
Yeah,
to do
absolutely.
that.
It's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yeah. And then you can look at the funding list too and see the various festivals and what levels we funded them at.
So we'll have, Summer, will you be providing us like with maybe last year's numbers, like, and you had done that just a few months ago, you know, what we were spending when we realized we were just about out of money, so we can see last year's commitments.
If you'll look on page, and I can try and make a little bit more detail, if you look on this last page, past expenditures, I went through and I looked at pretty much what we had funded, last 2012, 2013, and that's the list, like Allison Outdoors, 21, I figured in Comcast, the festivals, the Rumble we did, and if you, that's what I looked at, basically the financial reports that we've had and saw where the money's been. And so far, like from last year and including this year, because, you know, Taste of Scotland, Airing of the Quilts, the Folk Festival, those are items we have funded in the past. This is looking at, you know, kind of where we've been at.
And that adds up to what? Did you have a?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. I thought you did.
But,
That's okay.
but the thing is that there's 50,000 in there for Comcast, which is,
And you got
Half our
21
budget.
already
Right.
for billboards, so
and
you're
then
up
we've
to
got
80.
21
or
for
excuse me,
billboards, so we're up to
70.
80,000. And then some of the other stuff.
14.7 for the Smoky Mountain Rumble.
That's
Yeah.
how much that ended up.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And two, again, this is just from my past experience with the TDC and TDA. You know, after a festival hits a certain point,
Right.
it's time to cut the cord.
It's a
Well,
good point.
I was
mean,
gonna
when
bring
you
that
start
up.
making thousands, it's time to cut the cord.
That's a good point.
Well,
mean,
they're
you're
supposed to be
established and you're done.
self-sufficient. That
So-
is the goal, you
Yeah,
know.
so
Yeah,
That's just my
Yeah.
view from experience
It's-
past on
I
that.
agree with that.
And we-
TDC has been pushing back on the numbers that they're giving for the recurring events. And that was
The
one
problem
thing.
that we've had in the board in
This
the
is-
past, some people, I mean, I do want these functions to go on. I mean, but still, we said, and we say, and we say, and we say, self-sufficiency. We gotta stick to it.
Right.
There has to be a rule, say, I'm sorry, this is it. Do not come back next year because you are not getting no more.
This is the first year, I believe, that the folk festival is actually charging for crafters.
You know, if and when we do say no and those funds are obviously kept, we're going to be charged with making sure those funds be allocated appropriately, and obviously that's what we're going to try to do.
Right.
But that'll be the key thing.
But we need to be kept up, I mean, and that's the thing. We need a
The
visual,
follow-up.
because I'm a visual. The follow-up, we need something every month that says, sorry,
Is there so many years that they can ask?
that's never been established, but since you'll be on the board, that would be a good thing to
No.
start.
Well, can't you make that a thing and say, I'm sorry, you can only request this so many times?
Well, each year it should go down.
Yeah,
or-
you would think, yeah.
Yeah, what,
Get
And it never
predetermined-
does, because board
Predetermine
changes,
the amount of time to
people
give it
change.
to make it sustainable.
Right,
The event.
Yeah.
right.
the goal is for the event to be self-sustained.
That's correct.
And we've had a
that's
lot
what
of
we're
change
trying
in
to
the
do.
board. I mean, I'm the only one that is still on here. Well, Mike, I think you're, well, you're back
Well, I
on.
wasn't on the board,
But-
but I was a staff person.
It has
since the
been
beginning.
one rule and then things change, and I think that's the problem. Summer, I have to give you credit here too, because she's made it consistent where we've had a list every month where we can look at, and I think that's important. Even yearly, we gave these people this money. You know, we've got to set a limit and say, okay, we gave them 2,000, what's the difference? And what are we gonna do next year for them? Because they're gonna come back. Some of
Yeah,
us may
sure.
be here and some won't, and you're gonna be like, oh, well, I can't remember what we gave them. And we've got to hold them accountable. They've got to find other sources
Yeah, well,
of means.
part of
of
that
income.
is they've got to report what we gave them last year in their application for this year. That's part of what we're doing. And if the program hasn't changed and they're not doing anything to increase their income, that's where the TDC says, okay, you know, we gave you 3,000 last year. It's
I have
going
a
to be
question
2,000 this year.
I mean, I know several of these are Main Street program
Yeah.
festivals. Does the Main Street program have a budget?
Like within the town,
Yeah.
how much they do.
They do?
They do.
Oh, I
I'd
didn't
like
know
to,
that.
I mean,
The town has 20, basically 20,000 unless it's been
Still
changed. The
For-
20,000 for festivals. And that gets divided up amongst, what, now 6 festivals. So they're funding about in the same neighborhood we're funding. And that's why people will go, some of the festivals will go to town, some will go to they'll all go to town.
Some will try and hit all
TDC,
three. Yeah.
and they will hit all 3. And those are basically the downtown festivals.
So for example, like Linda Schloat, so she gets money from the town, part of their budget, is that right? Part of
Yeah.
Their budget goes to her. or she'll get something from their budget.
Right.
Then she comes
Something
before
out of
us.
that 20.
Right,
Something
something out of that 20, and then she'll come to us.
So basically what we've been doing is matching.
And then go to the,
Is that
yeah.
what you said?
Yeah, we could be, for the downtown festivals especially, we could be a third of the funding base.
Which on
For
their
that
applications,
festival.
they tell where their funds come from.
But we're looking at
But we don't know where they
advertising.
went to.
TDC is
Yeah,
pretty
we don't know.
specific on advertising.
And maybe that's a question we need to ask them, how many other grants have you applied for? Because
Well,
you've got
Well,
your
that's-
budget.
That's
And
on the
this is
form
what you're
also.
telling-
They have to list
They're supposed to list.
all the list. And as a matter of fact, I think it's even on our form, TDA, TDA.
Well, they're saying where they got their funds for, but not everywhere else they've applied or that they've been guaranteed those funds or anything. It's not on our application.
Yeah.
They're
That they've been
supposed to
guaranteed it,
account,
or that they've
No, they've
asked
not
for
been
it?
guaranteed.
they're,
They've
they're
asked. Yeah,
supposed to
so
account for
that's
all their
good.
funding on our application. So they will list us, they will list the TDC.
But where you
If you
could,
look at the applications, the last set of applications.
but where you
that's
could
all on
enforce
there.
that, what you're saying, yeah, when they apply to us, they may say, hey, we, 1,500 from TDC, but where you could force to see how much they were given is when they come back for the report.
Right.
To say,
What were
okay,
they
where
actually given from everywhere
what
else?
did you actually receive from?
Well, they're supposed to report that as part of their, because that's part of the.
I know they're supposed
report.
to, but they haven't. And
We
we've
can
had
start
one, I
enforcing.
think,
Okay.
came, and that's the problem. We've had too many people on and off the board, and everything's one that we lose. Or the next person, we all know, and we're all accountable
Because
for what's going on.
the TDC's application says that you've got to file a report because that may
Well,
affect your funding for next year.
I guess we'd be counting out all these
Failure to
people
do-
if that was
failure
what's
to
up.
do that.
Because I've only known of one that's actually come to us and actually gave us a
'Cause
report.
when I
That was
was-
the folk festival. So maybe we should only be granting them money instead of anyone else.
Yeah,
That's the
'cause
only one
that-
I can recall.
Yeah, no, there were a couple others, but
Shoot for
Because
the
I
deck.
did-
If
Yes,
you'll get
papers
the
are-
minutes and we'll find out if they did, because I don't remember a report unless it was one that I wasn't at.
Now, can we do something similar as that you said the TDC has just started
Sure.
recently, as
Okay.
far as, just instead of saying, here you go, here's $7,000.
TDC's had a form, but again, it was never enforced. It was never, now we're starting to enforce it.
But, okay, so Smoky Mountain Rumble, and I'm picking them out just
No.
because of the amount, not because,
That was a one-time thing.
But can we pay they show us the invoice?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was,
We
and
We
were-
pay that, or?
no, that's a good point, because I want to bring up, I was waiting off, the talent, John Henning Jr. wanted me to at least put this thought out there. He will be at the April meeting, if we decide to do this. One thing that he stressed to me was what we may want to consider doing is right now, the TDA, we do strictly fund advertising. Some, you can specify that the bills be billed directly to the TDA, which is then taken
Right.
care of. Some, right now, because it's not set in our rules of procedure, some you do give like a $200 check to be used for advertising.
Right.
John stressed to me what we might want to consider doing is adopting, stating that we will not fund any general operating cost, period. We don't do that now, but there's nothing in our bylaws that says 100% that we can't do that. And it's a good theory to go ahead and consider adopting. He said if we wanted to think about it, when he comes in April, he could guide us to the 30-day legal requirement, publishing it, and any
Changing our
changes.
bylaws.
Mhm. So that's just something to think
Okay,
about.
to say that, let me just make sure I've got this straight, that all funding that we give will be strictly for a specific
For advertising.
advertisement
Advertising
or
or
whatever.
promotion.
Right,
But
not to be used for
Any other.
anything else.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not paying
Or,
salaries.
you know,
we're not
right, I was gonna say
paying-
pay, well, they have to hire these people. and
Exactly.
charge,
Yeah.
Whatever, the traffic
Mhm.
flow or.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction we need to take.
And that's going
And how
back
do
to.
we monitor or enforce that?
Well, that's
By having an invoice?
By having that
having
that
that direct
that company,
invoice.
whoever it is, bill.
directly to TDA.
Right.
And that's what the
That's what I'm
TDC
thinking.
is starting, that was going back to your question.
Really?
That's what the TDC is starting to really enforce. That's what we did at the last meeting, it was basically, okay, where is their advertising dollars going? Well, they've got 800 here. Okay, you're gonna have to bill us directly. The Mount Laurel, that's just an example. The Mount
Right.
Laurel will have to bill the TDC directly.
Right, right. Because I can see where someone will say, well, we need $8,000, you know.
And they
Well,
can
we
put it
really
all
need
in
5, but let's
advertising.
ask for 8, see if we
Yeah.
can get all, you know.
Yeah, you got a
Yeah.
point.
Or was
And
it
that's-
spent for that?
And
Was it
that's
spent for
exactly-
that?
That's exactly how you curb that. And
Right.
I've seen budgets where they're asking for $8,000 and they've
And they'll
got
put it all in.
$300 in advertising.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait, no, we're not paying for this event.
Right.
You know, you're running this event as a profit-making enterprise for yourself. You know, we're not making that profit for you. You know,
Okay.
that's
I mean, I
up to
just
you
think
to
that would
collect
really
that.
help.
It would, and I was waiting to hold that because I didn't know I was gonna, under items from the board, but that seemed appropriate to bring that up.
Right,
But it
okay.
is something to think about, because he did ask me to mention that, and he said he would be at the April meeting if we wanna go that route, to legally introduce that.
Let them know ahead of time.
Yeah, I think it's
So
part of
he
our
can have it.
chewing every
Tell them
day.
not to wait till April.
Okay, fair enough.
You can bring paper in it.
By the way, I will not be able to be here in your April meeting.
Oh.
My dad's having hip replacement surgery
Oh,
that day.
okay.
Thank you.
So, I just wanted, that's the 8th, correct?
That is the 8th.
Yes, I will not be able to be here that meeting. So if you have boards or something I need to do, artwork or whatever,
Let you know.
just holler at me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hope that goes well.
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there any more items from the board?
I had a question about the board
mhm.
positions.
Mhm.
About what?
You know, board positions, the
Oh,
4
mhm.
that are available, or 3. I realized hindsight, Mr. Van Hook, who I recommended, now he does not collect tax, and he operates business outside of Franklin, city limits. Is that, if we open up to that realm
I
of,
don't
Is
know.
it, what is his business again?
he does
It's a
real estate.
company.
Real estate.
I think he'd be an asset, but, you know, I start thinking of the other available positions, and I know of immediately 5 people that I would consider approaching that, you know, are
In town.
That's
in
something
touch
we
with
need to
tourism.
ask
They're
John.
striving to promote tourism in Franklin, the Franklin area, but they live, you know, outside of city limits, or they
Yeah.
work outside of city limits.
I thought that was
That's a
requirement,
good,
but I don't
yeah,
know.
it's a good
No, it's
point.
not. It's not. There's nothing that says it's gotta be from within the city.
There's not, I haven't taken the time to
Well,
go
that's
back
funny
and read.
because I remember that when I first was asked to join the board, it was told to me that we couldn't get anyone out of the city limits. So I guess I
We
think
need
that's
to
something we need to
ping
ask.
Mr. Henning on that.
And
Well, there's nothing in the rules that says they must be a resident of the city, or their business has to be. in
no,
the
not
city.
yeah.
There's nothing in the rules that says that by statute or by local ordinance. And the business has got to be tourist related, so it has to rely on tourism or the tax collection. You and I are collecting taxes.
And-
Now, you don't have to be a resident of the city. You can
Just wondering
Does
what.
he collect?
Business.
I'm sorry. I could.
No, unless he does, I don't think so.
Oh, right, I don't
But we need to find out.
I've invited them to the
They're supposed to
April.
come to the April
Okay.
meeting.
Well, can I chime in while we're on
Yeah.
board positions? I was talking to Mr. Henning as well. You know, we currently have, we were talking the last meeting about Miss Springer collecting the rental tax. You know, our, Miss Springer. I'm a Southerner.
Go ahead. ma'am.
Thank you. You know, the requirement is, you know, we were saying, well, it looks like we filled the 1/3 requirement. He did advise me, one cautionary tale would be, you know, if it would really be beneficial if we could get that other person for the room the direct collection of room occupancy, because we were speaking and, you know, emergencies happen
I
and
agree.
things come up and people may have to
Drop off.
the board, and if that happened, we're gonna dip below that margin. We'll only have 2 or we may have one.
Right.
So he stressed to me just something to be thinking about.
Mhm.
We really should consider, not limiting that to having 3 tourist related, but to try and at least hold out in hopes that someone would be interested that does collect
So just
that.
because we have
I
the
agree.
required number that we need, it would be good to have a person on the board
Yes, ma'am.
who can fill that in case.
In case because you
Right.
never know what can happen.
Exactly.
So that tells me that
Yes.
since the tax we're collecting is within Franklin, that person has to be, collecting the tax has to be operating in Franklin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Would Josh Drake not fill that? As a Drake Enterprise for all the hotels that Drake owns?
Well, you have Microtel, you represent Microtel, right?
So what he applied, didn't he?
Yeah,
So that
he's
would give you
applied.
guys
And he's
another-
come to our
But now
April
he
meeting. He applied, we can ask him, but now he applied,
He applied not for, because I went
Right.
because I have
Yeah.
resumes.
Right.
And so I assumed he was applying for Mulligan's, but then when I read it, he applied as Drake Enterprises, but not the tax, but I think they collect tax, so.
We do.
Mhm.
So I thought, I was confused whenever I was reading
Just things to
Let
consider.
me
So
just,
you say you need
Yeah.
more people with that collect tax?
I think you
well,
should,
at least, yeah.
I think from what John and I discussed, it would be wise occupancy tax to at least hold out if you could for that other position instead of just saying, okay, well, right now it looks like we do have our 3,
Okay.
but you never know what could happen and we'll drop to
And this
2.
is the thing too, we have done that every time that there's been a position open, and I think that it's important, we need a full board, but we've gotten people on first 2-3 meetings, they didn't show up, and then they're off. Really think about it, consider them, ask them questions, and I think that was important for April. Just don't jump at anyone that comes and says, hey, I want to be on your board. I think that we need to really all talk about it, ask them questions and know, and like you said with the room occupancy, I mean, we had, 4 or 5 of us, I think,
You
that
had
did
5
real
at
estate
one
and
time.
rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of them left at that time, at the same time.
You had 5 at one time.
Yeah, the law says that at least 3, at least 1/3 has to be
Yeah.
occupancy collectors.
Okay.
The remainder, it says at least 3/4
Involved right there.
have to be involved in tourist-related business. Well, obviously, a collector is a tourist-related business. So you can slide some people in that are not directly tourist-related, but.
But you
that
can't
would-
slide them in if they're not, I see where you're going. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So, there's a third, because if you add a 1/3 and 3/4, you're at
Yeah.
101.
That's a good point.
Yeah. You're at 106th percent of your board, but it's structured that way so that.
What are our ads say?
The
ones that we-
notices.
Yeah, the notices.
There's 2, and I probably can't cite it. The first is business directly involved with the collection of room occupancy tax. That's the first opening, and that the person who held that was Beverly Mason.
Mhm.
She's who we're trying to fill with that one. The other 2 that we had, and possibly with Karen, so the other 2, we'll just say 2. The other 2 we had, the other description reads, a tourist-related business directly involved with the collection of sales tax.
Okay, not in Franklin? Okay.
But maybe when John's here in April, he
I'd
can,
just like to know,
yeah. No, that's fair.
not who to approach and who not to.
Because I know with hotels, well, they ain't taking the extra 3%, and maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Ah, that makes sense why you couldn't go out.
Yeah.
I got you.
See, with the
Thank you.
room, the extra
Like
3%
saying?
occupancy, like someone collecting
Think
the
of that.
tax
Mhm.
for like the hotel, it was supposed to be someone inside of town, the city limits.
It doesn't say that
So that's what I'm saying, when I came on the board, that's what I was told. So it's good that we're clarifying the rules right now,
though.
because.
It doesn't say that anywhere in the legislation that it has to be within the entity.
No, Tony, do you remember? I don't know if you remember.
I have a book somewhere.
We can all sit here and speculate
Yeah.
until we.
I was just-
Hey, lawyer.
Mhm.
I just wanted to give you his insight.
You got
I
the old
didn't.
record.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I distributed a copy of the
And I think
state
that's it, the
statute and
minutes
the
and
local
stuff.
ordinance.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I know
good
there
to
was
be
no
trying to
other
figure it out.
hotels that wanted to be in the city limits that wanted to be on the board, because we approached them several times. And it was said that they had to be collecting the room occupancy, because that means that Cat Creek or someone at Snow Hill would be able to be on the board.
Potentially.
Or Joe Blow's cabin rental.
Yeah.
Right.
Which,
Okay, so we'll have John here in April.
there you go.
Right.
Let John handle that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Handle it, Roy, handle it. Remember that show?
Let me just mention something, because you just mentioned Cat Creek or Snow Hill or whatever. You, Matt, Josh, who's applied, now y'all, I think we touched on this the last meeting, I think, right, where you all have the same employer. I don't know if I would be voting for, you know, a third of the board makeup or more working for the same employer.
Well, that's
Personally.
why I was gonna
Personally.
excuse myself from voting, because I am a Drake employee.
Right, but I mean,
I
I'm
see
a
your
lot of
concern.
business
Yeah,
but I'm just
So
saying.
I can,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I'm just, you know,
It's not helpful.
With this
That'd
could
be
be a
for anybody.
9-person.
it's kind of a little voting block, kind of.
Yeah, I agree.
Just, I don't know, I don't, you know, and
I
I
mean-
don't know Josh at all, so I don't have anything, you know, I don't know.
But just like if it was this is a poor example, like the hospital, for instance, you have a 9-member board and you have a third of it of hospital. I see your
Yeah.
concern. That's legit.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you work for Drake, yours falls under Drake,
Mhm.
okay, so then you have Josh, and if you're talking about like, oh, somebody from Snow Hill, do
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Well, I wouldn't, personally, I don't think
I
I'd do
wouldn't.
that.
Yeah, man.
Me, personally, I wouldn't.
Because I had the same,
So good.
I was gonna bring the same thing up at our,
Yeah.
when we voted,
Yeah.
because I don't think that's the way to go. But,
So we have some homework to do.
The section law, I just
Oh,
pulled it up, it says that at least 1/3 of the members must be individuals who are affiliated with businesses that collects the tax in the town.
In the town.
That's the in the town, and then at least 3/4 of the members must be individuals who are currently active in the promotion of tourism and the tourism of the town. So they have to collect the tax in the town.
Town to town.
You can, the other members can be someone from outside of Franklin, as long as they promote tourism in Franklin.
So
yes.
cute.
Okay.
Gotta make sure we get
So-
that.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
my bed and breakfast is
In the town.
about 400 feet outside of town.
Oh,
But it might be in
glad
there.
this news.
But it might also be in the, is it not in the extra?
Yeah, some
It's
It's in
not
the
in
extra
the-
service.
it's in-
It's in
it
the
counts.
jurisdiction.
Then it counts if it's
I'm
in
in
the
the
ETJ.
ETJ,
Because
so-
the Performing Arts Center's in the ETJ.
Right.
And that's why you can fund them, because you're supposed to only be able to fund stuff that brings stuff into the town, but they're
To the
considered in
town.
the town because of the ETJ.
Okay.
ETJ.
Extraterritorial
ETJ.
Right. So, okay.
Sorry, it came from 50 places.
We have-
I
Yeah, we
was
have.
going to see your reaction
Technically-
time. Who's got it
technically-
first? Alphabet soup.
Okay, so let me ask you, now let's see if this.
Acronyms
might
are
qualify.
More under
Yes.
town control.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I collect tax, occupancy
I'm
tax.
scared.
I know, it's like, oh, wait a minute, what I just read.
Should we wait till April?
but-
John's here. Go ahead. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so I do vacation rentals, they're private homes, they're all over, they're in town, they're in the county. My business is in town, so I pay the tax to town. I mean, I go to
Good.
Macon County and pay my occupancy.
You're good.
But as far as where those monies are coming from,
No.
it doesn't matter, because
You're
I'm
good.
based in town, so I pay the
You're
town.
good.
Got
Right.
it. Just checking.
Well,
Scare me there
you
for a minute. I was
don't
like,
pay-
please don't. I was like, man,
You're
And I'll
400
tell you, you shouldn't be,
400
you shouldn't be
feet.
paying the town tax on 100% of your occupancy. You should only be paying those on what's actually in
In
town.
the town.
Really?
Yep.
Even more homework. That's
Yeah,
important.
They owe you money.
You can't
All right,
collect- Technically,
Don't do that.
technically by law, you cannot collect the tax outside of the.
On
the-
a
There goes
On
your
a
budget.
rental
rental.
home that is outside.
All right, we have to come back with a new budget.
It's about to be very quiet.
There's your budget, guys.
We only had 80.
We're relying on
So
West
Vicki,
Mountain.
you've been
We're
sworn.
I know
all-
at Cat Creek, I do not accept that extra 3% occupancy.
So
And I'm like,
count about 10,000 less on your budget.
Yeah, we owe her some.
There went, well, we don't even have $5,000.
No, it won't impact that much.
Next year,
The thing is-
Yeah, I'd check on that, Michelle.
Yeah, because that, technically, it would be illegal for you to collect the tax on behalf of the town when you're not.
When
you're
that
not covered by
particular-
that.
So basically, I just need to make sure that it's added on to those places that are within the town limits,
Right.
but then everything else, those people do not have to pay.
Only
that.
9.75.
They only have to pay the 3% of the county. They don't have to pay both. Yeah.
That's what I-
The ones in town have to pay 3 to the county,
Even
3
though you're in town?
to the city.
Your income will be 12.75. Be quiet, don't say nothing else.
Okay, I need to.
Okay, Mike could tell I'm at 12.75 and Cat Creek I'm at 9.75. So if you only paid 9.75 for those town ones, I'd be quiet because then you're gonna owe
Oh,
them
we
money.
may have our increased budget.
I will remind you that it is live in memory.
Oh, yeah. And it zoomed right in on us.
Unadulterated.
Yeah,
Thank
Be a
you,
little careful.
Tony.
You're welcome.
yeah, because,
Be a little careful.
yeah.
So we have a direction going into April.
Okay, sorry.
Well,
Well, basically, we need to think about the people that has applied.
Right.
We need to make sure that John Henning makes these rules and regulations pretty clear and we adopt them.
Just
To
curious,
make it
did
clear.
that guy ever submit an application?
Just once.
Chris, I have tried getting in touch with him. I left a message today, and I think he's been really crazy with some shift changes. So I'll try. Yeah.
And really,
We
the
can have
only,
another one.
the only funding issue that we've got on the agenda is those 3.
I thought I heard of one more person.
Yeah, there was one
applying.
more person, right?
Leland Risk has
Yeah.
considered applying.
Oh, really?
Who's that?
He's with Signs Express.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a great fit.
And I told him if he was interested to please attend the April.
Oh, great.
So they're out there. They're coming.
Yeah.
So basically, we need
And
to
we're
have
still-
questions for them, what we need to ask them, what they're gonna present, how they're gonna help us with the board, with the tourism dollars. We need to get the
The
rules and
funding request.
regulations and the funding request solved and decided on. So we need to be thinking about these before then. Is there any more items for the board? If I can have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I was afraid to not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Anybody that votes
And
next.
stay.
That was good.